We're back with another 2-question podcast episode, this time from our listeners. So we're going to discuss the questions on, what if I'm just a stay-at-home parent and I feel like I need to be bringing in an income? How do we deal with, our worth and the purpose for money? Let's talk about it today.
Mama says namaste.
Mama says namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.
So last week we started this little 2Q series, and I had AI help me with some questions. And I'm so excited to say that this week I've got some questions to answer that are beyond AI and are real live people. So I had an email come in from Roxanne, and it was so great. I asked her, I said, can I please share this and us talk about it next week, because it fits so well with something I think that is a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and something that more than just one family is struggling with. So the questions that I got in, and really I have two different angles coming at this, and so I wanted to share both questions and then we can kind of discuss them together.
Oh, wow.
There you go. Oh, look at that.
And I
Hi,
spoke.
Nathan. You're
Hello.
here.
Sorry. I haven't had great witty comebacks at all your little sayings yet. So here I am.
Well, hi. Thanks for coming, witty, even without the wittiness all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So the first question that we got is from Roxanne. So Roxanne is a member of our 48 Days Eagles community, and I am the Dean of Family and Relationships in this community. It's run by my father's company, 48 Days, and it is a place for people to go and activate their dreams. So it's an online community that I am very active in, very much a part of, and every Monday we have a Monday mentor call, Monday mentor liftoff call, and it's to kind of kick off our week with some inspiration and learning in a different topic. And so, let's see, I guess last week I did one, and it was on the first steps for a flight path to success. And that's a course that we offer in the community. And the first steps of it is, well, really when we were crafting it, we were looking at, what does success look like? Well, it's not like, we're not doing this community for success to be, I made my first 6 figures or 7 figures or 8 figures, or I 10x'd my business. Success looks different for different people. And our whole focus in the Eagles community is to create the life you love. And so for some people, success may be, more connection with their family, more downtime, or success may look very different, in one person's world than another. And so when we were looking at how to create this flight path for success, we were looking at what touch points or what checkpoints you can do to kind of move forward and make progress as you create your own steps to success for what that looks like. And so when I was doing the Monday liftoff call, my focus was really speaking about knowing yourself and recognizing who you are and why you are here. What's your purpose? Who are you? Why are you here? If you were to be asked that every day, how would you answer that? And how can you kind of look inward to really look at that purpose and that significance in your life? So Roxanne emailed me after this Monday mentor call, and she said, I wanted you to know how much the discussion you had on last week's Monday mentor call had my husband and I, who listened to the replay with me, discussing many things we realized about not only ourselves, but how we interact with each other. For examples, as baby boomers, Chris and I are the nose to the grindstone mentality. After I had lost my job in 2020 and decided to start writing my book, nobody was paying me a salary. I gave up the security of a paycheck to pursue my dream. However, when I started, we had an emergency fund savings, and Chris has a career he likes, driving a tractor trailer for UPS, and he gets paid well to do it. This meant, although I didn't have to worry about creating a paycheck, I struggled with not earning an income during the process. Sure, I could have gone and gotten another job after COVID, had more money in the bank now, but I would have never written and had a book published. Funny thing is, we have more money now, are doing the things we want to do, even though I'm not earning a paycheck. Yet I still struggle with the I need to earn an income mentality. At least now I have a book to sell, and I know I want to create more books, courses, speaking events, and other residual income. But sometimes I feel I'm not letting myself enjoy the journey because I get focused on what's next. I had many more aha moments, but I wanted to share that one personally with you. Roxanne. Okay, so there we have somebody who's clearly a high achiever. She's done a lot, and I have to say, I know Roxanne, and I have read Roxanne's book, and it's called Catherine's Dream, and it just released this week, and I will put a link to it in the blog post that goes along with this because I'm so excited to celebrate with her. It's a beautiful book. She wrote it about her. It's actually a kind of a historical fiction novel about her grandmother, her Polish grandmother coming over here from Poland. And her story. And it's a really, really great book. So I love what she's done. Okay, so we're going to come back to that question. And I'm going to go ahead and just add the other question in because both of these questions are basically all we can talk about for the rest of this episode.
Lovely. A question sandwich.
Yes. So the next question comes from Mandy. And she says, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And I'm struggling with feeling like I'm not doing enough. My husband works long hours and my kids are now busy with school. So I have time on my hands. I like hobbies, but I feel guilty, like I should be doing more.
So lots of guilt in the doing.
Yes.
Seems.
So, and I feel like that's a pretty common situation for many of us, as we should on ourselves.
Yeah.
What should we be doing? We should be doing more.
Meanwhile, your husband is like, I should be home more.
Right. I should be.
I should be gone more and doing things to add to the. To me, one of the best analogies that I've ever heard for that's helped me manage my wants in life is it comes from a little book called Buddhist Boot Camp. Buddhist Boot Camp. Yeah.
Oh boy, we've referenced that. We really went through it a lot for a while.
Yeah, well, we had the girls
about it
reading
in a while.
it.
Okay,
But
this is another one. Link in the website.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But one of the parables in there is that life is kind of like cake batter.
Yeah.
And cake batter is really important because if you think of cake batter, it's the base. It's holding up the sweet stuff, right? The icing and everything that everybody oohs and ahs over, and that's kind of the super sweet. So if you think of in life, vacations are icing, and buying a brand new car is icing. Those are things that we pay money for, but eventually the icing wears out, and you get to that cake part. And if that cake mix is bitter, which is an analogy for our life, if our life is bitter, it doesn't matter how much icing. It doesn't matter how much we distract ourselves with good things, and sometimes we can think that, or not really talk about that batter mix in a relationship. It's just kind of assumed. Like I know, when you and I first got married, it was like, all right, let's get jobs and figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
It was never this assumption that, well, what if we did this? What if we did it another way? What if we tried something this way? We just, did it. And so that you kind of can get into this zone of like, well, this is normal and nobody's upset about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you get like 10, 12 years down the road and it's like, well, is this really what we want? Is this what I need? And you kind of reevaluate that batter mix. And I think that's important to think about. Like we've always looked at our life and said, is this working for us? And we look at this in like 3-month increments and we say, how's the cake batter basically?
Mm.
Are we all happy with that? But I think that's an important tenet to bring into the conversation of the feeling of lacking and not contributing, because a lot of times I think it has to do with the feeling of, am I bringing enough contents to the batter mix? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I know it's a very long, I was quiet for a long time and I kept it all pent up.
There you go. Yeah, so the book is Buddhist Boot Camp. I think it's Timber Hawkeye, and I'll put a link to it. And it's great little short stories that have had added some great reflection in our lives. And yeah, I think that that's important for us to address is as you are looking at your feelings of shoulds or inadequacies or worth, oftentimes those tend to come as seasons are shifting and maybe we're not quite sure where we shift in that process.
Right. We're not fully comfortable in ourselves right now.
Right. It's the stay-at-home mom who now all of a sudden has all of their kids in school and they've got extra time on their hands during the day. And they're not quite sure what all they need to be doing. And, and trying to make sure that you don't just lose yourself in just being just the mom, but having a life outside of that. Yeah. Or it's the empty nester being, okay, I've got everything good and sweet, but I've lived my whole life making money. And to not do it, is that negating my purpose or my worth?
Well, and that's an important thing to explore in yourself that not everybody explores very, until they're faced with it, really. I mean, I remember talking to my dad about that when he was retiring from Nissan, and I had already seen people in the banking industry who were, retiring, and, I'd see them 6 months later, and it's like, well, I'm
bored.
There was this level of, they had a really hard time with the transition. I'll just say that it's really hard. It's like, to me, it's the exact same thing as moving from a corporate job to entrepreneurship or going from public school to unschooling, where there's this period of like, I don't even know where I fit right now. I don't know how to work. And I told my dad, the advice I gave him was that you need to change your mindset from saving to spending. Like, it's okay to spend. You've spent your entire life, 65 years, thinking, I need to save for this moment. Now you're at the moment, and you don't quite know what to do with yourself, because it's just like when people say, oh, you're 65, how does it feel? Well, the same as I was when I was 35, There's just more achy. And so, it's that, I feel like sometimes we don't always imagine what do we want when we're running towards something. We just start running towards something because we're told to. And I found that to be true when I stopped working, where, there was, being the perceived, breadwinner, and I guess on our taxes, I still am. But, with that, where I took a step back from work, I mean, it took a transition period of thinking, well, what am I worth? But one of the things that Ashley and we were talking about, when we were kind of discussing this podcast, was, I kind of reframed how I started looking at money, and
that's the biggie right there.
Yeah, and that kind of changed it for me. I was able to change my view of money to more of an energy, and we give part of ourselves for that energy, and really we give part of ourselves to have a household. When you decide to raise a family, we have to give attention to this other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many creatures you bring into the world. They require energy, and something has to go to that. Otherwise, everybody's fried and nobody's really functioning fully. And so, I really appreciate and think that the home position, that if you're a stay-at-home person, then that's a very, I was kind of teasing that we were debating on, do I ever get time off? What do you think?
Time off in a home is very loose.
Yeah.
And
it reminds me of real estate, where there's always somebody on the phone calling. They might not have a problem, but if there's a fire, you have to deal with it, no matter what it is.
Right. So while there may be lulls, and there are times where, you'll take off and you go biking or go do things to recharge, it's not really time off when you're a parent. You're always on for whatever emergency. You're still there.
Right.
Right. And the mental load is still there.
Yeah.
Even when you physically remove yourself, that doesn't necessarily mean you drop the feeling of needing to carry all of the weight for your family or anything else. So, there is a lot that goes into it.
But I don't think having any guilt about that is very valuable, because that's energy that somebody else would have needed to do if you were gone.
Right.
I mean, the dishes don't do themselves. The floors don't vacuum themselves, although I don't do a very good job of that either. But it's a reality that, as you're looking at your life and deciding, what do I want my life to feel like? Sometimes we forget to check in with our partner and say, how's the batter instead of the water, right? I don't know.
Yeah. So kind of summarizing where we're at here is that really when we're feeling feelings of inadequacy in what we're doing, there's two things that we're looking at. We're looking at, number one, what is our purpose for money in our lives? What's the point of money? Is money the end all be all? I've just read an article last night about a guy who lived in a mobile home park. He didn't even have furniture in his mobile home. He had a bed that was like falling through the floor, and didn't have a car, drove around on a lawnmower, had nothing. This guy lived like in absolute poverty, and yet he passed away and donated $4 million to his city. And I look at that, and at first I was like, that's really crazy. That's really, fascinating story, and how cool that he gave back. And then I listened to the interview talking with a guy who knew the guy, and I just read the article, and really what I got from it was, here was a man whose father raised in the Depression, and drilled into him to be frugal with your money, don't spend on anything. And it was so drilled in him and so ingrained in him that he had no concept of how to actually do anything when he had the money. And so he just socked it away, and he continued to live in poverty. And thankfully, a neighbor mentioned, hey, remember your town when you die. And that's what he did. And he willed it to it. But I don't think it was a testament to a man who lived a large and philanthropist sort of life. It was a guy who had just been conditioned and programmed so much in his world not to spend, that even though he was able to make the money and he was able to produce it, he just didn't know what to do. And I feel like that happens a lot of times, where we hustle, we keep our nose to the grindstone, we get so focused on this need to make money that's all we're doing. We're the squirrel gathering the continuous nuts. It doesn't matter where the money goes or the nuts go. It doesn't matter, because our focus is simply on just making and generating the money.
Right.
So what is your purpose for money? If it's to have freedom, to write a book, Roxanne, to explore your creativity without being stuck in survival mode, to be able to be in that way where you can bring joy and light and whisk somebody off to another world in Catherine's dream. And to do that where you've given somebody else an escape, a moment of joy in their life, and helped them to, grow in their reading or understanding what it was like for your grandmother. I mean, there's so many things where I see the purpose in doing that brings life, not only to you, Roxanne, but to your audience, to the people that read the book.
And also to the same point, we've kind of accepted the reality, or really enjoyed, I guess, the reality of seasons.
That was my number 2. Yeah, I was just thinking. I said there were 2 points, and I only said 1. The 1 point was the purpose for money, and the second point,
take it away.
Go for it, Nathan.
Yeah, seasons. And so that's how I was able to, I wouldn't say rationalize, but be more enthusiastic and less regretful about what we were doing. Was I decided that this was a window in my life that we could afford to change the contents of our lifestyle and do something together that I don't think we will ever regret, but it is an emotional currency that I have lived down in Florida around retirees long enough to recognize that that's stuff that is really the magic juice. It doesn't really matter how much you're living off of or where you're living. Everybody can make it to Florida and live in $1 million home or $100,000 home. But at the end of the day, they're looking at the same sunset. When I talk to these guys, part of the biggest kind of differentiator between the attitudes is whether they have had a fulfilling life with their families and they have felt satisfied in that community, or it's been a trouble and they've felt
pressure to perform,
pressure to perform,
deliver.
Or it just wasn't what they were expecting. It was more sour than they had hoped. And so, just the value of recognizing that there might be something that you're investing in that has a lot of an emotional currency for a period of time, and that's a valuable currency that's worth, to me, that's worth investing in. I don't
that right there is exactly that kind of pinpoints what you chose to do. You left real estate where you were making a substantial income and financial currency, and yet we did not see you that much, and you were running around a lot, and we were very busy, and we didn't have the same closeness with our kids. And
Right.
then you chose to exchange that financial currency for the emotional currency of being there, being present with the kids, and really getting to know them. And that's really, that was the first focus, was just, we say deschooling as get rid of school and build the relationship. That's what we did when we entered this new season, and you were looking at the new currency exchange. You're learning the currency.
Yeah.
And so you invested emotionally in getting to know them, and then you looked at what is how can I continue this currency, this energy of the emotional connection that we have in our home.
And that's true for any faith journey. Writing a book, doing anything that steps you out of your norm, that makes you feel uncomfortable, that the back of your mind says you should, or why don't you? There's one thing that I've just learned is to be okay with that feeling that that question is always going to come up in your mind. How you respond to it and the story that you write after that question is questioned is up to you.
There's so much about both of these questions that take no major steps, simply a perspective shift. It's simply looking at it in a different way. Mandy, what you're doing at home and while your kids are gone and while your husband is gone, maybe you're taking a nap, and that is so worth it. And you are investing in your physical currency of recharge and being able to show up and be there when they do get back. And, maybe you're investing in your own growth so that when they come back, there is joy and excitement on something that you've done that was completely outside of them, that creates more rich conversations. Yeah, I noticed that with Nathan and I. We're together all the time. So our whole family tends to be together 24/7. And yet we have recognized and so valued the little moments that we'll take apart from each other, where we'll go and have interactions with other people or do things on our own, because it makes our conversations together that much richer. Because it's not, oh yeah, I was there. We got to have some variety around this. So, while your husband's at work, while your kids are at school, what are you doing? Well, I recharged today and I did some self-care, or I grew in this arena. I stretched my mind in this. I challenged myself. Those things are great investments still in your family and exchanges of currency. It just is not a dollar bill.
And that was the other piece that I had justified in leaving real estate, was we had gone through 3 years of working very, very hard to build up that real estate business. And my parents had just gone through a very, very difficult divorce, which was very taxing. And I did not realize how much energy it had zapped out of me until maybe 2 years later, after I was like, I feel good again. I didn't it's just one of those, it's that drum, it's that hum in the background of the air conditioner that you don't realize is the ache or the pain, that once you turn that off, or you give yourself permission to relax. That was one thing that I had to learn in real estate, was I felt like I always had to help everybody, but I realized that if I was helping everyone all the time, I wasn't helping anybody.
Exactly.
And so
jack of all trades, master of none.
And so I intentionally limited how many people I would work with, and made sure that I had a little window in my week where I could go and sneak away and take care of myself. Now, I justified that because of all the action that I did. And when you were at home, you kind of get into this, it's kind of like when you get in a car, you can be a different person. At home, you can get into this space where everything you do is just a long, continuous line of tasks, of balls that are up in the air that will be handled and dealt with. And so really, we oftentimes discount how important that that position is, or that juggling is, because if it's not done, a lot of those things fall. And so, just to kind of give yourself permission. I've not had a problem giving myself the right to say, hey, I've been cooking and doing dishes, and I'm going to go for a bike ride now because I deserve it. And, if you've been working and taking care of the kids and making sure the house is in order, then when everybody's gone, you taking a nap is totally fine. It's justified. And it's not a nap if you feel guilty about it at the end. And so I think that's what's important, is just the mindset of forgiveness and grace for yourself in what you're doing, because I think, especially in American culture, we have this attitude that if you're not doing anything, you're not anything. And that's a very interesting way of looking at it. I will just say this, that there is a whole nother world of being okay with not doing anything, and it ends up being the most busy, amazing thing in the world, where you're slowed down and it ends up speeding up, if that makes you, I don't even know if I can explain that, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for Mandy and Roxanne, think of, sit down for a minute and just list what you contribute, what you add. Think about what all you have done. I mean, write down just for in the past week. You don't even have to go for a full year here. I guarantee you're going to have a long list. I know, Roxanne, I know you personally. I know your personality style, and I know that drive can really fuel you forward. And taking a moment to write those down and to acknowledge the things that you have done and the ways that you have contributed can help so much. And so for both of you, I mean, again, it's not the dollar bill. It's what have you done? Where are the things that you can identify that maybe you just weren't aware of all you do?
And that's a good exercise. We will do that to Miss Ashley quite often when she is like, what have we done? I said, what have we done? And I'll start, Lizzie's like, well, yes. Okay, yes. And then I'll point out, I think we did we checked on every year that we've been married, there was a major life event that has occurred. So we've gone through 19 major life events typically.
Yeah, at least 19 major life events. And we're talking having a baby, changing jobs, buying a house,
losing jobs,
sickness, family shifts, all of that.
And so it is.
You're right.
Sometimes when you start to look at how awesome you are, you kind of give yourself, man, it's okay.
There's a lot you add, and it doesn't have to be about a dollar bill, because I guarantee you that your family is not going to be talking about the dollar bill after you're gone. They're going to be talking about Mandy's impact in my life.
Well, when my dad dies, I'm just going to be reading off his net worth.
Yeah. I mean, how sad that there's so much more in that relation. Thanks for adding that caveat.
But yeah. Think about that. And I mean, that's really the truth of what I've seen when I've been living around so many retirees is you only get, these kids are kids just for a little while. This moment in time is just here for a while. And so if you're not refreshed to be able to be present with it, then you're not going to, there's a lot to miss, I guess. I'll say that.
Right. So do an inventory on the things that you have done, and take a moment to just recognize the ways that you have impacted the world in ways that may not be monetary, and recognize that really those things are the things that make you the most rich, the most wealthy, and those are the legacy that carries that ripple effect. Mm-hmm. It's not just your net worth. It's not just how many dollar bills you threw into the home, but what home did you cultivate in the house that you are living in?
Yeah.
What home was cultivated, and what beautiful lights of fulfilled and joy-filled people are coming from that home, and how can you best foster that? So again, so often our feelings of frustration, our shoulds, our stumps, our feeling stuck, everything, there's so many times where it seems insurmountable, and the reality is it's a perspective shift over anything else. Mm-hmm. Look at it with some different eyes. Bring some awareness to your awesome. And remember, the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. So rock on with your bad self. Namaste.
1, 2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all the change that I want to see in this world. Boys and girls, you gotta have to stand up to be free. Namaste in your heart. Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama says namaste.